I was hauling west through Wyoming when the sky went white, like the world had decided to erase itself. Been driving rigs for 20 years, seen wrecks, wildfires, even a man burn his own truck for the insurance. But nothing like her. She was standing in the middle of the interstate, barefoot, no coat, no pulse of breath in the cold. And when I stopped, she said my name. I swear to God, I'd never seen that woman before in my life. By dawn, I realized it wasn't just a storm chasing us. You think you've heard road stories before? You haven't heard this one. Hit that follow button, leave a like, and keep listening. Because what happened next will make you question every mile you've ever driven in the dark. Snow fell the lazy way that makes you doubt gravity, sliding sideways across the beam of the headlights, as if the sky had forgotten which way was down. Gabe sat high over Interstate 90, a good old freight liner thrumming beneath him, heater coughing out air that smelled faintly of dust and antifreeze. The road lay ahead like a black ribbon lost in milk. The wipers worked steady, stubborn as men on a night shift. Somewhere behind all that white was the Bighorn Range, but tonight the mountains were a rumor and the wind a fact. He kept the radio low, a late-night station out of Billings bleeding through static, a woman's voice reading highway updates between songs people pretended not to need. Jackknifed rig near Hardin, blowing snow around mile markers no one loved. Gabe rolled his shoulders, felt the familiar grit in the right one. 50 will teach you where your parts complain. He nudged a dash photo with the side of his knuckle, a picture taped a little crooked above the glove box. Mara laughing into Dakota wind, hair everywhere, a sky so blue it could have been bragging. Still out here, kid, he told the empty cab. Still headed west. The freightliner breathed deep, satisfied. He had planned to make the Loves Off the Crow agency exit before the worst of it. Park among the other big boys, lie about tires and fuel economy, nurse a diner coffee so hot it gave you a reason to keep going. Instead, the storm beat him to the punch. He was not in a hurry to be a headline. A man learns to read wind the way he reads faces, in the jaw and the eyes, in what refuses to blink. He saw the shape only because the shape wanted to be seen. A smudge at first, an ink blot against the plow bank, then a person, then a woman standing where shoulder became road. Mittenless hands tight to her body, as if she were holding herself together. The curve of her bare ankles made less sense than the snow itself. The night had teeth. He let the rig ease down, break wine thin as a cough. Hazard lights clicked a slow heartbeat. The woman did not wave. She didn't look scared either, which bothered him more. She stood like a thing carved out of the weather and sat there to test what kind of man might stop. Gabe cracked the passenger door. Cold punched the cab, hard and clean. "Climb in," he said. There was no place for pretty manners in a storm. She hesitated a breath, then hauled herself up by the grab bar with the easy competence of someone who had done harder things. The cab filled with the smell of snow and wool. She dropped a canvas duffel by her boots and sat, careful, like she did not want the seat to know her weight. "Thank you," she said, voice rough, echo of grit roads and long days. "I'm Lena." He nodded. "Gabe." He watched her angle palms toward the vent, fingers raw and red at the knuckles. No ring. Not that it meant anything. He clicked the heater another notch anyway. "Where you headed, Lena?" "South, if south is warmer." A ghost of a smile. "I can hop out at the next truck stop. There's a cafe. There's always a cafe." "Not always," he said. "But tonight could be." He brought them back up to speed, which was to say a cautious crawl that would have made his 20-year-old self antsy. The storm liked to lie, opening a curtain long enough to make you cocky, slamming it when the pavement turned sly under you. He rode the shallow trough where other tires had already worried the snow into a dirty groove. Somewhere to their right, the river ran dark and quiet, a black snake under ice. The radio woman tried for cheerful and failed. Another closure near Livingston, a reminder to keep blankets, water, and an eye on your neighbor. Copy that, Gabe told nobody. He cut the volume, let the rig's engine do the talking. Beside him, Lena thawed by degrees. He felt it more than saw it, tension easing out of her shoulders in little slips, breath lengthening. The kind of thaw a person doesn't know she's making until the shiver leaves for good. "You always pick up strangers?" she asked, not turning her head. "No," he said. "I pick up people stuck in blizzards. That's different." "Different how?" "Strangers are an idea," he said. "Stuck is a fact." She looked at him then, quick as if to measure the man who talked like that and still kept both hands set easy on the wheel. There were stories in her eyes, sure, but tonight wasn't the night to go knocking on locked doors. He had learned the hard way not to pry at people until you knew whether they were hinged with wire or hope. The highway lifted and fell in a rhythm his body knew better than names. They passed a green sign half buried in drift, letters iced thick. He could make out a town he had slept near 100 times and never truly entered. The American West did that to you. Let you orbit lives you did not live, wave at windows you would never look out from. He thought of his boy down in Boise, of oil under fingernails that looked like his own, of the way their conversations had learned to circle safely around weather and ball games, as if love were a sharp thing you could cut yourself on if you weren't careful. A sound came up through the floor, small and metallic, not the rig's usual grammar. A microscopic click, then another, like a coin settling in a jar. Gabe did not flinch. The habit of listening kept him alive more than once. He fed the Freightliner a little throttle, felt her answer. The click went shy, then returned, farther away. A memory filed itself without being asked. Check it later. Men who worked in moving machines kept maps in their bones. Ahead, a rectangle of light wobbled in the storm. Neon, maybe. He tasted coffee he had not yet earned. "We'll duck in," he said. "Warm up. Let the plows have their fun." "Fine by me," Lena said softly, as if thankful were a thing best whispered. She watched the light the way a lost hiker watches a cabin. Her duffel shifted against the floorboard when they turned into the lot, a snowfield pocked with the hulks of other trucks at odd angles like sleeping beasts. A hand-painted sign on a leaning post announced chili and pie and hot TI, as if salvation came in 3 flavors. He left the engine idling, a habit and a superstition. "Hat," he said, passing her a spare knit cap, the kind every truck has and no trucker remembers buying. "Wind's a mean one." They made for the door together, their boot tracks punching neat ovals into the drift. Inside the cafe, it was wood paneling, and old calendars with tractors that had died before the year was out. A pair of ranch hands slouched at the counter, cheeks scoured raw, eyes crinkled into permanent squints that said they had learned to laugh at things they could not change. The waitress wore a sweatshirt gray with many washings and a name tag that said Trudy in letters probably older than Gabe's truck. "Kitchen's open if your money's warm," she said, kindly in the dry way locals are when the weather goes biblical. "You two thaw, I'll bring tea that'll make you believe in something." "Much obliged," Gabe said. They took a table by the window, where the glass shuddered like it too was tired. People looked at Lena the way men look at any woman walking out of a storm with a stranger. Curious, measuring, sometimes mean. A whistle started and died when Gabe set his eyes on the offender and did not look away. Most folks in America didn't want trouble. They just forgot what it looked like until it stood up and breathed. Lena kept her attention on the steam that curled off the chipped mug Trudy put down in front of her. The first sip hit her like mercy. Her shoulders dropped to that last inch. "I owe you," she said finally. "You owe me nothing," he said. "Road's the one that keeps score." "If you say so." He ate chili that burned in a good way, felt blood return to fingers he had not known were numb. They did not talk much. The conversations of other men filled the room, gravel voices trading notes on chains, visibility. A state trooper who had let a guy slide because the storm made the law feel human. There is a kind of faith in cafes like that, a faith with grease under it. He took comfort where he found it. When he paid at the register, Trudy nodded toward the window. "You watch yourself," she said. "Old boys have been up and down the frontage roads all week, looking to make someone else's business their own." "Appreciate it," he said. He filed it next to the click in the floorboard. Wind knifed them clean on the way back to the truck. He walked the Freightliner by muscle memory, knuckles tapping tires, eyes counting chains, breath making a brief fog of the world. He heard a tiny settler's noise in the frame, a metal sigh as something found home. Later, he promised the rig. "I will look later." Back in the cab, Lena sat holding her duffel the way you hold a life when the handle's about to tear. She caught herself and loosened her grip. "You ashamed to be seen with me?" she asked into the half-darkness, a smile trying and failing to make the sentence a joke. "Not my style," he said. He settled behind the wheel, every gauge a small word he could read without thinking. People stare when they got nothing better to do. We do. He eased them out, careful not to spin up ice. The highway welcomed and warned all at once. Snow thickened the way soup does when the heat gets low. The radio coughed into talk of closures again, then quit, static dropping to a hush that felt deliberate. The heater pushed a slow tide of warmth at their knees. The clock's green glow put soft numbers on their cheeks, and for once he did not look at it. Time in a storm is best measured in miles survived. "Your singing voice says you used to sing," he said after a while, because he had heard her hum along without meaning to, a low vibrato that might have once paid a bill. She huffed something like a laugh. "Used to" is a good phrase. Used to in Austin. Used to in little bars where the mic smelled like other people's bad nights. But life started conducting without asking. "I know that conductor," he said. "Wears a big hat, never apologizes." She smiled, a real one this time. The storm crowded the glass and their small talk into the same narrow strip of world. For a few miles, the road pretended it would let them pass untouched. Then the engine coughed. Not the no big deal kind. This came from deep, a stutter in the Freightliner's chest. Gabe felt it before he heard it. He fed her fuel. She took it like an old dog taking a hill, stubborn more than strong. Another cough. A light flickered amber on the dash, then stayed. He spoke to her softly. "Not now, sweetheart. Not tonight." The rig chuffed once, quit arguing, and died. Silence hit hard. Outside, the wind wrote its name all over the prairie. Inside, you could hear heat leaving. "Battery?" Lena said. "Fuel gel, more likely," he said, or a filter that decided to winter in place. He tried the key again, the starter grinding like teeth. Nothing. They sat in the black with the hazard lights going their slow pulse, two red beacons blinking into snow that swallowed them whole. He chewed the inside of his cheek, old habit. We stay smart, we stay warm, we wait and we fix, in that order. He popped the glove box, felt for spare gloves. For the little things you keep believing will matter. I can hold the light, Lena said. She had already pulled the cap down over her ears and tucked hair into her collar. He recognized the set of her mouth. Some women ask to help because asking is polite. Some ask because help is the only thing that keeps them from remembering other nights. He nodded. They stepped into cold that had opinions. The hood creaked like it was waking up cranky. The wind tried to make off with his flashlight and failed. He found the filter by touch and swore under his breath, not at the machine, but at the night that made machines fragile. "I'll try to warm her," he said. "You shield the flame." "Fire near fuel," she said. The question was caution, not fear. "Warmed a line outside of Williston once when the air would have shattered glass," he said. "Not my first dumb idea, but a good one if you do it right." They made a blue-orange penny of flame out of rags and diesel, a small resistance in a world that did not care. Wind bit, eyes watered. The smell of singed cloth rose up into the storm like the memory of other winters. After a time measured in curses and chattering teeth, he killed the flame, closed the hood, and they climbed back inside, fingers stinging alive. He turned the key. The freightliner caught, stumbled, then found a rhythm that would do. Warmth pushed across their shins again, thin at first, then sure. He tipped his head against the rest and let breath come all the way out. "You make a habit of pulling off miracles?" she asked, voice hoarse with relief. "I make a habit of bringing stubborn things back to the table," he said. "Road taught me." He did not tell her about the tiny sound he had heard again as the engine settled. The faintest little tick from somewhere a man could not name, without crawling under and listening with a wrench against bone. He did not tell her about the glance Trudy had given them over the counter, warning stitched into her tone. A storm night is a poor time to hand someone else your worry. They sipped the last of the hot tea from the thermos. The hazard lights blinked their patient code. The snow wrote and rewrote the same story on the same piece of glass. In that close warmth, Lena's eyes softened in a way that made him feel both older and less alone. "Thank you," she said again, and this time the words landed where they were meant to. "Sleep if you can," he said. "I'll watch the gauges." Outside, the interstate lay empty and full of possibilities, the way dangerous things always do. Far behind them, beyond the curve of the road and the reach of their little lights, something else moved in the dark. Nothing he could name yet. Only a weight in the wind, the sense a man gets when the miles are paying attention. He kept his hands on the wheel long after there was nothing to steer, watching the snow, listening to the freightliner breathe, and promising himself he'd check that new sound come morning, if morning let them keep it. Morning didn't so much arrive as negotiate its way through the storm. Light seeped into the cab, the weak kind that looks guilty for showing up late. Snow had stopped sometime before dawn, leaving the world in shades of cold silver and pale blue. Gabe woke to the sound of the engine idling steady, a sound he trusted more than most people. His neck hurt. The kind of hurt that came from sleeping half upright and too long. Lena was awake. She sat with her knees pulled close, watching the world beyond the windshield, as if trying to decide whether it was real. Her hair, now dry, caught the daylight in threads of gold and copper, like the sky had left fingerprints there. "You slept?" he asked, voice gravelly from the heater air. "A little," she said. "You?" "Truck drivers don't sleep. We pause." That earned him a ghost of a smile. "You really talk like that?" "Only when I mean it." He reached for the thermos, shook it, empty. "Figures." He glanced at the clock. 7:38, give or take. The road ahead stretched west toward Bozeman, a white ribbon of quiet. Fuel's fine. Roads'll open soon enough, he said, tapping the dash. You still want south? Wherever the sun's going, she said, then hesitated. You can drop me when it feels right. Feels right for who? She looked at him then, really looked, long enough that he saw the shadow behind her eyes. The kind of shadow that didn't come from sleepless nights or bad weather. It was the kind you carried after something had gone wrong and hadn't yet decided how to stop going wrong. He didn't press. Men like him learned to read silences, not fill them. They rolled out slow. Tires crunched on packed snow. The world was new again, fences buried, barns half swallowed, signs bowed under frost. They passed a red pickup nose down in a ditch, door open, no one around. Gabe made a note of it, radioed it into the highway patrol just in case. The dispatcher sounded tired. Everyone did this morning. They climbed through a long curve where the wind had sculpted drifts into smooth dunes. That's when Gabe saw it. Faint tracks veering off onto a service road. Fresh ones, not plow or snowcat, too narrow. Something smaller, maybe a car or jeep. He squinted. Someone got brave, he muttered. Or desperate, Lena said softly. He didn't like the sound of that. They drove another mile before she spoke again. You ever lose something, she said, and still feel it moving, like it's out there somewhere looking for you too? Plenty, he said. Lost a marriage, a house I never liked much, a boy for a while. They all find their way back, one way or another. She nodded, eyes on the horizon. I lost someone too, but not to death, to choice. He waited. She didn't add more. The miles folded under them. By mid-morning, the sun pushed hard enough that the snow turned to a wet gleam. Steam rose from the asphalt. They passed a green sign, Livingston, 15 miles, and Gabe exhaled. Coffee and gas, he said, and maybe pie if we're saints. Saints don't drive freight liners, she said. Then sinners need breakfast. He liked that she could still joke. That meant she wasn't all the way gone inside herself. The town appeared like all Western towns, gas stations, old brick, American flags stiff with frost. He parked near a diner called Big Sky Cafe, its sign hanging crooked but proud. Inside, the smell of bacon and burnt toast did its best to erase the storm. A waitress named Denise poured coffee without asking. Gabe ordered eggs, bacon, toast. Lena just wanted oatmeal and water. He noticed she ate slow, like someone remembering what hunger felt like after forgetting it too long. When she went to the restroom, the waitress leaned close. She yours? He blinked. What? The girl. She looks lost. She's just traveling, he said, too quick. Denise's face softened. Ain't we all? He watched Lena return, smaller somehow, paler. Her hands shook just a little when she reached for a spoon. He wanted to ask if she was okay. He didn't. Instead, he said, You look like someone who used to play music. She raised an eyebrow. That obvious? Truckers get lonely. We learn to notice the sound people carry. She smiled. I played guitar, wrote songs nobody heard. Till one day someone did. And that was the worst thing that ever happened. He waited, and this time she told it. A man in Austin. Promises. A record deal that wasn't one. Her voice on a demo she never got paid for. The man who took everything, her songs, her name, her safety, then disappeared when she called him on it. She left Texas with nothing but that duffel and a scar she didn't show. I guess I'm still running, she said. Problem is, I don't know from what anymore. He stirred his coffee. Maybe running's just another way of looking for a better road. Her eyes softened. You believe that? Gotta believe something, he said. They finished in silence. When the check came, he paid. She started to protest. He stopped her with a look. Next one's on you, he said. Outside, the day had turned bright, the snow dazzling. The world looked deceptively kind. They climbed back into the Freightliner, heater blowing warm. They hadn't gone 2 miles before the police lights appeared in the mirror, red and blue strobes flashing across the windshield. State trooper, Gabe muttered. He eased to the shoulder, killed the radio. The officer approached, snow crunching under boots. Young guy, face wind-burned. Badge read K. Holbrook. He leaned in. Morning. We're checking vehicles after the storm. Lot of break-ins overnight. You folks doing all right? Gabe nodded. Just got breakfast in Livingston, heading west. The trooper's gaze slid to Lena. Ma'am, could I see some ID? She froze. Not a twitch, not a breath. Gabe saw her jaw tighten. I lost my wallet, she said quietly. The trooper frowned. That so? You sure about that? Gabe stepped in, steady. We got caught in the blizzard last night. I picked her up off the highway. Didn't seem right to leave her out there. Holbrook studied him, then her, then the duffel on the floor. A long beat passed. You know, we had a missing person report fit your description, ma'am, out of Texas. You want to tell me anything before I make a call? Lena's eyes darted to Gabe's. Panic there now, raw and naked. Please, she whispered. Don't let them take me back. Gabe looked at her, then at the young officer. Snow glittered around them like broken glass. The next words would decide everything. Officer, he said slowly, you sure you got the right person? Holbrook's hand hovered near his radio. Guess we'll find out. And just like that, the quiet morning turned dangerous. For a moment, nobody moved. The wind dragged snow across the asphalt in thin white ribbons, like whispers that couldn't decide who to haunt. The young trooper's hand hovered near his radio, the kind of half gesture a man makes when he's still hoping things don't turn bad. Gabe knew that kind of hope. He'd seen it melt faster than snow on a diesel hood. Sir, Holbrook said carefully, I'm going to need both of you to step out of the vehicle. Lena's voice was a breath. Please don't. Gabe raised one palm. Officer, mind if we talk a second? Inside's warmer and she's half frozen. Holbrook frowned. Talk outside. Protocol. Gabe sighed, slow, the kind of sigh that says he'd rather be hauling produce than arguing law. He unbuckled, stepped down into the snow. The cold bit his cheeks like it had been waiting for him. Lena stayed in the cab, frozen in place, eyes wide. Holbrook adjusted his hat, sizing him up. You said you picked her up last night? Yeah, near Crow Agency, middle of the damn blizzard. Would have been dead in an hour if I hadn't. You get her name? Lena. Didn't ask for more. She looked like she'd had enough questions. Holbrook nodded, jotting something in his notebook. There's a missing persons alert out of Travis County, Texas. Woman named Lena Cross. Report says she left home 2 weeks ago after a domestic situation. Folks are worried. Domestic, Gabe repeated. That's a big word for one side of a story. Holbrook's jaw tightened. You saying she ain't who we think she is? I'm saying maybe she's exactly who she says she is, just trying to stay breathing. The wind slapped them both, cold and hard. Holbrook looked past Gabe, at the Freightliner idling patiently, at the woman inside hugging her duffel like a lifeline. His hand dropped away from the radio. I'll make a note I saw her, he said finally. But if dispatch follows up, I'll have to give them your plate. Fair enough, Gabe said. You just do it slow. The trooper gave him a look halfway between warning and mercy, then turned back to his cruiser. Gabe climbed into the cab, feeling the cold in his bones now. You all right? He asked. Lena's hands were shaking. He knows. They'll call it in. He'll tell them where we are. Maybe. But that gives us a head start. Her eyes snapped up. You're helping me? Not sure yet, he said. Depends what I'm helping you from. She looked away. If I tell you, you won't believe me. Try me. Silence filled the cab, the kind that stretches thin before it breaks. The road hummed under their tires again as he pulled back onto the highway. Snow glare turned everything blinding white, a world too clean for the kind of messes people make. Finally, she said, I was married. His name was Aaron Cross. He ran a private security company, real connections, government contracts, everything. Looked perfect on paper. But he's not what people think. Gabe waited. He's dangerous, she said. To everyone. To me most of all. Her voice cracked then, just once, like a wire snapping. She took a shaky breath. He kept everything under my name, every account, every address. When I left, I thought I could disappear. But you can't disappear from a man who builds tracking software for the Defense Department. Gabe's gut went cold in a way that had nothing to do with the weather. You saying he's looking for you? She nodded. He'll find me if the police call him, and he'll make it sound legal. Gabe rubbed the bridge of his nose, thinking. You got proof? Anything? She tapped the duffel at her feet. Hard drive, documents, emails. Enough to ruin him if I can get it into the right hands. He stared at her. And the right hands are where? Portland, she said. A journalist, I trust. But I didn't plan on snow or troopers or this. He blew out a long breath. So what? You just started walking north till the map ran out. I was supposed to catch a bus in Billings. But his people were there. I saw one of them outside the depot. I ran. You were the first person to stop. The engine hummed low, steady, like it was listening. Outside, the storm-scarred land slid by, white and endless. Gabe kept his eyes on the road. If what you're saying is true, you're not running from a man. You're running from a machine built to find you. I know. Her voice was small now. I thought I could stay ahead of it. He didn't answer for a long while. Just drove, jaw tight, mind turning. A part of him, the careful, tired part, said, drop her at the next sheriff's office and let the law sort it out. But another part, the one that still carried his ex-wife's words when she'd said you always save broken things, Gabe, until they cut you too, told him he was already too far in. By noon, they'd crossed into Gallatin County. The sun burned high, cutting diamonds out of the snow. He found a side road, a quiet one flanked by pines heavy with frost, and pulled over. We need a plan, he said. If that trooper makes the call, you'll be flagged before nightfall. Lena nodded, pulling her coat tight. I can pay you. I have cash. He waved that off. Don't insult me. Money's easy. Staying alive's the hard part. Her eyes softened. Then why help me? Because somewhere out there, my kid's the age you were when you thought the world would be kind. She swallowed, looked out at the white woods. He's lucky to have you. Not sure he'd say that. They sat in silence, the kind that builds trust more than words. Then Gabe reached under the seat, pulled out an old road atlas, edges torn, coffee-stained. We'll take back roads. Stay off interstates till Idaho. Then we find your reporter friend. Lena leaned closer. studying the map. "You really think we can make it?" "Depends," he said, folding it open to the winding roads west. "On whether your husband's money buys reach or luck." She looked at him, a flicker of hope fighting through the fear. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet." He turned the key. The Freightliner grumbled back to life. As they merged onto the two-lane road, wind sweeping over the plain, he caught sight of a black SUV far behind them. Too clean, too steady, the kind of vehicle that didn't belong to any rancher. It followed for a mile, then another. Gabe's grip on the wheel tightened. "Lena," he said quietly, "you didn't tell me if your husband's men drive government plates." Her face went pale. "Why?" He nodded toward the mirror. "Because I think one just found us." The SUV kept its distance at first, a dark smudge in the mirror, sliding along the white horizon like a patient hunter. Gabe didn't need to look twice to know it wasn't coincidence. Trucks got followed all the time, by law, by dispatch, by bad luck. But this was different, too precise. He eased off the throttle, just a little. The SUV matched him. "Still there?" Lena asked, voice small, brittle. "Yep," he said. "Been there since the last mile marker." Her breath caught. "It's them." "You sure?" "I know his people," she whispered. "They never flash lights, never pass. They just wait till you stop." Gabe's jaw flexed. The highway stretched ahead, a two-lane cut through pine forest and rolling hills. No exits, no gas stations, not even a mailbox for miles. Perfect place to disappear. He ran a mental checklist: fuel, tires, road conditions. "You ever seen them back down?" She shook her head. "Not once." He looked at her. Fear lived on her face now, sharp as the morning light. She hugged the duffel close. "Then we don't stop," he said. He dropped the shifter, fed the Freightliner more throttle. The engine growled like an animal that remembered what it was for. The cab shuddered. Snow kicked up behind them in clouds. The SUV stayed right there. At 70, the road turned slick, patches of ice gleaming like mirrors. Gabe kept it steady. He'd driven through mountain passes in worse, once in Wyoming, once with brakes that had been more prayer than metal. He knew the edge of control by heart. But this time, it wasn't about cargo or schedule. It was about survival. "Hang on," he said. The Freightliner swung onto a narrow service road, tires biting snowpack. The SUV followed, slower but steady. He could feel its headlights crawling up the back of his neck. "Whoever they are," he muttered, "they're not amateurs." Lena looked out the window, scanning the tree line. "There's an old ranger station a few miles up this way. If it's still standing, we can—" Her words broke off as the road curved and the back tires slid. Gabe countered hard, bringing the rig back in line. Snow sprayed across the windshield. "Okay," he said, forcing calm. "You steer through fear, not into it." She didn't answer. She was staring past him, out the window, eyes wide. Another vehicle, smaller, gray, sliding out from a side trail to block the road ahead. "Two of them," Gabe said flatly. "Hell." He braked hard enough to feel it in his teeth. The Freightliner lurched, fishtailing, then groaned to a stop 50 yards from the gray SUV. The black one closed in behind, boxing them. "Stay in the truck," Gabe said. "Don't move till I say." He opened the door. Cold slammed into him. Boots hit snow. The world was painfully bright, sun glaring off everything like a spotlight. Two men got out of the front SUV, no uniforms, no badges, just black parkas, mirrored glasses. One tall, one thick through the shoulders. The kind of men who had been trained to make violence look like procedure. Gabe raised a hand. You boys lost? The tall one smiled thin. You've got something that doesn't belong to you. That's so? Gabe said. Lady in your passenger seat, the man said. Company property. Gabe's blood turned slow. She doesn't look like property to me. The man shrugged. Everything's property to someone. He took a step closer. Gabe didn't flinch, didn't move. He'd seen that stance before, Iraq, years back. Private security, contractors who didn't wear patches because patches meant rules. You Cross's people? He asked. The tall man's smile widened. You can call him Mr. Cross. Tell Mr. Cross, Gabe said evenly. He can go straight to hell. The man's jaw twitched. I'll pass that along. The heavy one moved first, fast, aiming for the cab. Gabe reacted on instinct. He'd been out of the army 15 years, but the body remembers what adrenaline forgets. He caught the guy by the coat, pivoted, used his own momentum to send him sprawling into the snow. The man went down hard. The tall one drew a gun. Gabe froze, hands half up. Let's talk about this. The man leveled the weapon at his chest. Not much to talk about. Depends, Gabe said, voice steady. You fire that, troopers will be here in 5 minutes. The man tilted his head. We both know they won't. A sound cracked through the air, not a gunshot, but the hiss of compressed air. Then the sharp ping of glass. The Freightliner's passenger window exploded outward. Lena, Gabe shouted, diving sideways as the tall man fired. The bullet ripped through the side mirror. She was already out of the cab, crouched low behind the truck's steps, clutching the duffel. Her eyes found him through the storm of snow. Run! Not my style, he yelled back. The heavy one recovered, staggered to his feet, reaching for his sidearm. Gabe grabbed the nearest thing, a metal tire iron from the truck's tool rack, and swung. The blow caught the man's wrist. The gun went spinning into the snow. The tall man cursed, fired again, missed. Gabe didn't wait for a third shot. He grabbed Lena's arm and hauled her toward the tree line. They ran. Snow swallowed their steps, breath tearing in their throats. Behind them, engines roared, tires spinning, voices shouting. A bullet snapped through branches. Another hit bark off a pine trunk, scattering splinters. Keep going, Gabe said. They didn't stop till the forest thickened, pines closing in, the road gone behind them. Gabe slowed, scanning the shadows. Silence, except for wind and the far hum of engines searching. Lena collapsed against a tree, chest heaving. They'll find us. Not today, he said. He crouched, checking the duffel. You still got the drive? She nodded. Yes. Good. We move west through the woods. There's a service cabin about a mile from here. Saw it on the map. We'll lay low, wait till dark. She looked at him, eyes wide. You didn't have to fight for me. He wiped blood from his lip, half a grin. Guess I'm too old to learn better. He scanned the horizon again. Silent now. Deceptively peaceful. Then he said quietly, almost to himself, They weren't trying to kill us, not yet. They want what's in that bag. Lena hugged it tighter. Then they'll come again. Yeah, he said, glancing toward the pale sun hanging over the Montana pines. And next time, we'll be ready. They found the cabin just before sunset. Half hidden under a crust of snow, it looked like a relic from a century that had given up. Roof sagged, windows fogged from frost, chimney leaning like an old drunk. But the door still held, and that was enough. Gabe tried the latch, frozen. He put his shoulder to it. The wood cracked, snow tumbled in, and stale air spilled out, dust, smoke, and a faint smell of oil. He stepped inside, boots echoing on bare boards. Home sweet nowhere, he muttered. Lena followed, shivering, duffel clutched to her chest. You sure no one lives here? Not unless ghosts learned how to haul diesel, he said. Ranger stations like this get abandoned when budgets run dry. Last record I saw on the map was 10 years old. The place was small. One room, a rusted stove, a cot missing half its springs, and a map of the Gallatin National Forest nailed crooked on the wall. He checked the corners out of habit, window frames, crawl space, shadows. Old instincts die slow. Lena dropped her duffel on the cot, rubbing her arms. You think they'll come this far? They'll try the road first, Gabe said, unhooking his jacket. But tracks will vanish by nightfall. Wind's got our back for once. He found a box of matches near the stove, half empty but still dry. A minute later, fire crackled in the old iron belly, smoke climbing slow through the pipe. The warmth crept out in fragile waves. Lena crouched near it, palms open, face glowing gold in the light. For a moment, she didn't look hunted. She looked human again. Gabe sat opposite, elbows on knees. You got anyone else who knows what's on that drive? She shook her head. Just the reporter in Portland. She helped expose a senator's kickback deal last year. She's the real thing. Then that drives your life insurance. I know. He studied her, the way she stared into the fire without blinking. There was strength there. Quiet, battered, but alive. You ever shoot? He asked. Her eyes flicked up. No. Why? Because if they find us before morning, I'll need more than my charming personality to keep them off. He stood, rummaged through a storage shelf until he found what he wanted. An old Remington hunting rifle wrapped in oilcloth. He checked the bolt, nodded. Still breathes. You're ex-military, aren't you? She said softly. He hesitated. Used to be. Long time ago. What branch? Army. 8th Logistics. Convoys through Iraq back when the world was young and stupid. Her gaze lingered on him. So you know what it's like. Being hunted. He gave a half smile. Yeah. Only difference is, back then we had orders. She looked away, the fire painting her face in orange and shadow. You ever kill anyone? He didn't answer at first, just stared into the flames. Sometimes the road gives you choices. Kill or get buried under someone else's decision. You tell yourself it's survival. Then you spend the next 20 years deciding if you're right. Silence stretched. The fire popped. Finally, she said, I'm sorry. He shook his head. Don't be. I got out. Bought the rig, hit the road, started hauling loads instead of memories. Guess I figured if I kept moving long enough, the past would lose my scent. She looked up, but it didn't. No, he said. It just took a different shape. Outside, wind howled through the trees, low and steady. Snow began again, thin flakes swirling like ash. Gabe rose, checked the windows, blocked the cracks with torn burlap he found in a crate. Lena followed him with her eyes. You ever miss it? The military? Sometimes, he said. Discipline, camaraderie, knowing what side you're on. But mostly I miss the quiet after the noise. That moment when you realize you're still breathing. She nodded slowly. I used to get that on stage, just before the first note. Like the world held its breath for 1 second and you owned it. You miss it? Every day, she said, but not enough to go back. They let the silence sit between them like old friends who didn't need to fill it. When darkness came, the forest changed. Shadows deeper, the wind sharper. Gabe took first watch, rifle across his lap. Lena lay down on the cot, wrapped in an old blanket. Within minutes, her breathing softened. He listened to the stove crackle, to the storm whisper through the trees. Every creak outside sounded like a footstep until proven otherwise. He'd learned not to ignore those sounds. Around midnight, he stepped outside. The cold bit like teeth. Stars hung low and bright, sky clear except for a pale ribbon of cloud crawling over the mountains. He scanned the valley, no headlights, no movement, just endless white and black. He stood there a long while, letting the silence settle into him. He thought of his son, Ryan, 15 now, living with his mother in Boise. He hadn't seen him in almost 2 years. Birthdays were calls that ended too soon, promises that never got mailed. He wondered what Ryan would think if he saw his father now, standing guard over a stranger in the middle of nowhere, carrying a gun he swore he'd never touch again. When he finally went back inside, Lena stirred. "Everything okay?" "For now," he said. "Sleep." She nodded, eyes closing again. He watched her for a moment, then sat near the fire. The flames danced, warm and untrustworthy. He reached into his jacket, pulled out his phone, and stared at the signal bar, one weak flicker. He hesitated, then typed a message into a number saved under dispatch. Not his company, not anymore, but someone he trusted from his old life. "Need a favor. Off-grid. Tracking possible private security team west of Livingston. Might be corporate. If you hear chatter, ping me." Gee, he didn't hit send. Just stared at it, thumb hovering. If he sent it, he'd pull other people into this mess. If he didn't, they might both disappear. He saved it to drafts, shut off the phone, and leaned back. The firelight flickered across Lena's sleeping face. She looked younger now, almost peaceful. Gabe whispered to the dark, "Guess we both ran out of roads." Outside, the wind shifted, a long, low moan through the pines that sounded almost human. And somewhere far below in the valley, headlights moved again. 2 sets this time. Slow, patient, searching. The sound came just after 3 in the morning. Faint, deliberate, wrong. Not the creak of timber or whisper of wind. Footsteps, heavy enough to pack snow, light enough to mean trouble. Gabe was awake before his mind caught up. Years on the road, years before that in places that smelled like sand and cordite. The body learns to listen better than the brain ever will. He eased the rifle off his lap, motioned silently toward the cot. Lena was already half up, eyes wide, fingers gripping the blanket. "You heard it too," she whispered. "Stay down," he said. The footsteps circled once, crunching slow outside the cabin walls. Then, silence, the kind that presses on your chest. Gabe raised the rifle, sighting the doorway. The latch rattled. He shifted his stance, breath slow, finger resting against the trigger guard. One more sound, and the door gave a long creak inward. A beam of flashlight cut through the dark, slicing across the room. Gabe's finger twitched. "Easy," a voice said. Male, low, steady. "Name's Eli Turner. I'm not here to hurt you." Gabe didn't lower the gun. Funny way to introduce yourself at 3 in the damn morning. The figure stepped inside, tall, mid-40s, beard peppered with gray, snow dusting his shoulders. He carried no weapon Gabe could see, just the flashlight and a small canvas pack slung over one shoulder. "I saw the smoke," Eli said, setting the light down so it pointed at the floor. "You're lucky I did. There's 2 SUVs parked down the ridge. Been circling the old service road for hours." Lena sat up straighter. "They're here." Eli looked at her, eyes narrowing. "You're the one they're after." Gabe didn't lower the rifle. "You mind telling us who you are before we start trusting you?" "Forest Service," Eli said, flipping open a worn badge. The plastic was scratched. but the seal looked real enough. Retired now, but I still keep an ear on the radios. When strangers start chasing ghosts in my woods, I like to know why. Appreciate the civic spirit, Gabe said, but this isn't your fight. Eli chuckled dryly. Everything in these mountains is my fight. Come sunrise, you'll have company, and not the friendly kind. He glanced toward the door. They've got dogs, small team, probably 4 men total. Lena's face drained of color. He sent a tracker unit. Who's he? Eli asked. Her husband, Gabe said flatly. Eli blinked, whistled low. You picked a hell of a mess to drive into, trucker. Seems that way, Gabe said. Any chance you know a way out? Eli looked around the cabin. There's an old ranger tunnel about half a mile south. Storage for fuel drums back in the 70s. It runs under the ridge to a logging road. If we move before dawn, we might slip past them. Might, Gabe said. Eli shrugged. Depends how bad they want her. Lena hugged the duffel close. They'll never stop. Gabe met her eyes. Then we don't stop either. He grabbed his jacket, slung the rifle over his shoulder, and started packing what little they had, flashlight, matches, 2 bottles of water, the last of a granola bar. Eli watched, approving. Discipline, he said. You military? Once, Gabe said. You? Coast Guard, Eli said with a half smile. Different ocean, same ghosts. They stepped out into the dark. The snow had eased, but the cold was knife-sharp. Stars shone hard and bright. Their breath fogged the air like smoke. Stay close, Eli whispered. Keep to the trees. They moved fast, feet sinking into crusted snow, branches clawing at their coats. The forest loomed like a black cathedral. Somewhere far below, the low growl of an engine echoed. Patient, hunting. They reached a ridge. Eli pointed to a narrow depression between rocks. Tunnels down there. Gabe slid first, boots crunching. Lena followed, clutching the duffel. The tunnel mouth was half buried by fallen branches, a dark gap in the frozen earth. Eli cleared it with gloved hands, then ducked inside. The passage smelled of damp earth and rust. Old fuel drums lined the walls, labels eaten by time. Gabe flicked the flashlight on low beam. You sure this comes out anywhere? Unless it collapsed, Eli said. Haven't been down here in years. They walked single file, breaths echoing in the narrow space. The tunnel angled down, then leveled. Water dripped somewhere far ahead. Then, a sound behind them. Boots, multiple. Close. Eli hissed. They found the entrance. Gabe spun, killed the light. Darkness swallowed them. How far to the exit? 200 yards, maybe. Go, Gabe whispered. They moved fast, half running, the tunnel floor slick underfoot. Lena stumbled once. Gabe caught her by the arm, steadying her. The echo of footsteps grew louder, closer now, metal clanging against rock. Voices muffled. Eli reached the end first. Here, he whispered. He shoved aside a rusted metal gate. Cold air rushed in, the smell of pine and open space. Lena crawled through, gasping. Gabe followed, dragging the gate back into place. A flashlight beam flickered behind them just as he shut it. Move, he said. They scrambled up the slope. Behind them, shouts, There, get them! Then the sharp crack of a gunshot. Snow exploded near Gabe's boot. He fired once in return, a single echo that rolled through the trees. Then silence again, broken only by the wind. They didn't stop until they reached the tree line overlooking a frozen creek. The world below was silver and black. No lights, no road, just wilderness. Eli bent over, catching his breath. We bought time. Not much. Lena looked at Gabe. What now? He scanned the horizon, eyes narrowing. We head west. Keep low. If we can reach the county road by morning, I can get us to Idaho Falls. Eli straightened. You'll never make it in daylight. Then we moved through the night. The older man studied him, then nodded. I'll take point. You two follow. There's an old trapper's cabin near the river bend, safer than freezing out here. As they started moving again, Lena touched Gabe's arm. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. He looked at her for a long time. Because once someone helped me when I didn't deserve it. Guess I owe the world one. She blinked, eyes shining in the dark. Then I hope the world pays you back. He shook his head. It never does. But maybe you can. They walked on in silence. Behind them, faint and distant, a dog barked. Then another. Eli muttered, They brought trackers. We've got maybe an hour. Gabe tightened his grip on the rifle. Then we make that hour count. Snow began to fall again, soft at first, then thick, a curtain between them and the men behind. The storm that had almost killed them 2 nights ago now became their shield. And somewhere beyond that white silence, the men in the SUVs realized their quarry had vanished again, swallowed by the same wilderness that never stopped keeping its secrets. The river looked dead under the moonlight, frozen over, except for a black vein running down the center where the current refused to give in. Pines leaned over the banks like witnesses too tired to testify. Eli led the way down a narrow slope, boots punching through crusted snow. Cabins across the creek, he whispered. Old trapper's post. Haven't seen smoke from it in years. Let's hope that means it's empty, Gabe said. They crossed where the ice held firm, slow steps, one at a time, rifles slung, duffel hugged tight against Lena's chest. The ice groaned underfoot but didn't break. When they reached the far bank, Eli pointed toward a small shack half hidden under snowdrifts. It was little more than 4 walls and a roof patched with sheet metal. But there was a door that still hinged, and for now, that was enough. Inside, it smelled of wood rot and dust. Old pelts hung stiff on the walls, fur faded to gray. A lantern sat on a shelf beside a rusted trap. Eli lit the lantern, its light throwing wild shadows. Welcome to paradise. Smells like it, Gabe muttered, scanning corners. No footprints, no signs of life. Good. Lena sank to the floor, exhausted. How far are we from the highway? Eli rubbed his chin. 15 miles, give or take. But there's nothing out there for 10 more. No signal, no town, just dirt and trees. Gabe sat against the wall, rolling his shoulder. The pain there, old shrapnel from a roadside blast long forgotten by everyone but his bones, had begun to pulse again. We'll rest till dawn, then move west before they regroup. Lena nodded, pulling her coat tight. You think they'll stop? No, Gabe said simply. Men like that don't stop. They just reset the hunt. Eli crouched near the window, peering out. Storm's picking up again. They won't move in this, not tonight. We got a few hours at least. Then we use them, Gabe said. He dug the sat phone out of his pocket. Military issue, scarred, old but reliable. He hadn't powered it up since leaving the service, but the moment felt right for ghosts. He turned it on. The green screen flickered to life. No network bars. But a faint blinking dot in the corner told him it was searching. What's that? Lena asked. Something I should have thrown away a long time ago. He scrolled through the contacts list, mostly dead numbers, defunct bases, and one name still glowing faintly at the top, M. Rourke. He hesitated, thumb hovering. You trust this Rourke? Eli asked quietly. Used to, Gabe said, back when trust was a job requirement. He hit call. Static. Then, after a moment, a click. A voice came through. Gravel and whiskey. Jesus, Gabe. I thought you were off grid for good. Yeah, well, Gabe said. Grid found me. What's wrong? I've got a woman with me. Being hunted by private security contractors out of Texas. Cross Industries. Ring a bell? A pause. Then the sound of a chair scraping. Aaron Cross? That's the one. Gabe, you need to listen. Cross isn't just a corporate thug anymore. He's been feeding contracts to defense bidders, laundering through Shell subsidiaries. Some of those names are government flagged. If you've got his wife with you, you're sitting on a powder keg. Yeah, Gabe said. We noticed. Rourke exhaled. You said she's carrying evidence? Hard drive, emails, financial trails, enough to ruin him. Or enough to get both of you killed, Rourke said. Cross has federal friends, deep ones. He doesn't need bounty hunters. He can make you ghosts on paper. Lena's face went pale. What does that mean? It means, Gabe said quietly, if he can't find us, he'll erase us. Eli swore under his breath. So what's the play? Rourke's voice hardened. There's one safe route. Head northwest to Salmon River Pass. There's a ranger tower there, decommissioned, but still has a radio link. I can patch through a contact in Portland, the reporter she mentioned. But you need to move now, before Cross locks down the border checkpoints. Copy that, Gabe said. Gabe? Rourke added, voice low. You didn't hear this from me, but I caught chatter on encrypted bands. Not just Cross's men. Someone hires tracking movement through the forest. You're not the only ones being watched. The line crackled, then went dead. Gabe lowered the phone, jaw tight. Eli frowned. What does he mean, hire? Could be feds. Could be Cross's friends in Homeland. Either way, we're not alone out here. Lena rubbed her temples. I just wanted to tell the truth. Truth's expensive, Gabe said. And someone already paid your deposit. The storm outside grew louder, wind slamming against the roof. Eli checked the lantern fuel, half a can left. We'll have to keep it low or they'll see us. Then darkness it is, Gabe said. They let the flame die to a whisper. Shadows crept in again. The world outside was all sound. Wind, ice, the low groan of the river. Hours passed. Lena dozed against the wall. Eli kept watch by the door. Gabe sat with the phone still in his hand, listening for ghosts. Sometime near dawn, a soft chime broke the silence. The sat phone, no call, no message, just a single beep. He frowned. That's not normal. What is it? Eli asked. Ping request, Gabe muttered. Someone's trying to triangulate the signal. Lena sat up, eyes wide. They found us. Not yet, he said, shutting it off. But they know the mountain. They'll be here by noon. Eli cursed. Then we move at first light. Outside, the storm broke for a heartbeat, just long enough for Gabe to see headlights glinting faintly on the far ridge. 2, maybe 3. He turned to the others, voice calm but final. They're coming. Lena's hand trembled as she zipped the duffel. Then let's go before the river remembers our names too. Gabe nodded. Northwest, to Salmon Pass. Eli slung his pack, tightened his coat. And after that? After that, Gabe said, opening the door to the wind, we make sure the truth stays louder than the men who want to bury it. They stepped into the storm, snow swirling like smoke around them. The first light of dawn cut through the clouds, pale, fragile, almost merciful. Behind them, the cabin stood silent, lantern flame guttering out. Ahead, the wilderness waited, wide, white, and full of things that didn't forget. The climb began before sunrise. The sky was still a bruise-colored gray, and snowflakes hung heavy as ash. The ridge ahead rose steep and endless, a wall of ice and pine that promised both salvation and death in equal measure. Eli took point, moving with the steady pace of a man who knew how to read a mountain's moods. Gabe followed, rifle slung tight, duffel strapped to his back. Lena brought up the rear, wrapped in 2 coats, her breath ragged in the cold. The snow was knee-deep in places, hard-crusted in others. Every step cracked like breaking bone. The world was soundless but for their breathing and the soft whisper of wind. They'd been climbing for an hour when Gabe stopped, scanning the slope below. "We've got company." Eli turned. "You sure?" Gabe pointed. Down near the tree line, faint movement, 3 figures, dark against the snow. The men were spaced wide, moving in a half-circle pattern. Trained, deliberate. "They're tracking us," Gabe said. "How far?" "Close enough to make me nervous." Eli swore. "If they hit the ridge, we'll have nowhere to run." "Then we don't let them get that far," Gabe said. He checked the rifle, chambered around, and scanned the ridge. A narrow chute of rocks led down to a frozen creek bed. Cover, maybe even a way to flank. "Stay with Lena," he told Eli. "If I'm not back in 10 minutes, keep moving." Lena caught his arm. "You can't. I've done this before," he said softly. "Trust me." She looked like she wanted to argue, but something in his voice stopped her. "Just come back," she said. He nodded once, then vanished down the slope. The forest swallowed him whole. He moved fast but silent, boots crunching in rhythm with the wind. Every shadow looked like a muzzle flash waiting to happen. At the bottom of the ridge, he crouched behind a fallen log. The 3 figures were closer now. 2 men in black tactical gear, and one a step behind, scanning with binoculars. Private contractors, no question. Cross's men. Gabe raised the rifle, exhaled, and sighted the rear man. The shot echoed like thunder in the cold air. The figure dropped. The other 2 dove for cover, shouting. A burst of automatic fire shredded the snow around him. He rolled, came up behind a tree, breath burning his lungs. "Come on," he muttered. "Show your faces." Another burst. He saw a muzzle flash, fired twice. Silence. Then a voice, sharp and close behind him. "Drop it." He froze. Cold metal pressed against his neck. "Easy now," the voice said. Male, calm, practiced. "Hands up, trucker." Gabe slowly raised his hands. The man behind him stepped forward, short beard, tactical headset, eyes like winter glass. "You got a name?" the man asked. "Gabe," he said. "Well, Gabe, here's the thing. My boss wants the lady in the drive. You hand her over, you walk away." "Your boss ever keep his word?" The man smiled thinly. "He pays better than most." Gabe glanced sideways, just enough to see a reflection in the man's glasses. The faintest shimmer of light from behind him. Eli. One shot cracked through the air. The man behind Gabe went down without a sound. Gabe turned. Eli stood 50 feet away, rifle still smoking. "You owe me a drink," Eli said. Gabe let out a breath. "You're a lousy shot." "Yeah, but I make up for it in timing." They climbed back to the ridge together. The snow had started again, heavier this time. The tracks behind them were already vanishing. Lena waited under a pine, hugging the duffel tight. When she saw Gabe, relief hit her like a wave. "You're bleeding." He looked down, a graze along his arm. Nothing serious. Just paint, he said. Eli scanned the horizon. 2 more down there, they'll regroup. Then we keep moving. They started again, slower now. The slope narrowed, wind rising like a scream. Trees thinned to crooked skeletons. Snow blinded everything beyond 10 yards. Lena stumbled once, knees buckling. Gabe caught her before she fell. You good? I can keep going, she said. You sure? Her breath came in short bursts. I've come too far to quit now. Eli glanced back. She's tougher than she looks. Yeah, Gabe said. That's what scares me. They reached a narrow ledge that cut across the cliff face, the only way to the pass. One misstep and you'd fall 100 feet into rock and ice. Eli went first. Gabe followed, keeping a hand on Lena's shoulder. The wind tore at them, snow swirling like white knives. Halfway across, a sharp ping split the air. A bullet. Gabe shoved Lena against the wall. Down! Another shot. It hit the rock above them, showering dust. Sniper! Eli shouted. Top of the ridge. They were pinned. No cover, no angle, just exposed rock and a drop beneath. Gabe could see nothing through the blizzard but faint flashes of light. Can you see him? Eli yelled. Not yet, Gabe said, scanning. Then Lena moved. She reached into the duffel and pulled something out. Not the hard drive, but a compact silver device no bigger than a phone. She pressed a button, and it blinked red. What the hell is that? Gabe shouted. Signal jammer, she said. Cross used them to hide drone traffic. I stole one. The light blinked faster. Somewhere above, the rifle fire stopped. Eli frowned. You jammed his scope feed. Exactly, she said. Smart, Gabe said. Next time, lead with that. They moved again, faster, until the ridge widened into a flat plateau. The wind roared like a freight train. The world around them was nothing but snow, sky, and silence. Eli dropped to one knee, scanning through binoculars. There, tower, maybe 2 miles northwest. That's our pass, Gabe said. Let's move. But then Eli froze. Wait. What? He lowered the binoculars slowly. There's movement near the tower. 2 trucks, military pattern. Gabe's stomach turned cold. Cross doesn't have that kind of gear. Which means, Eli said grimly, he's got friends who do. Lena stared at them both. You mean, yeah, Gabe said. Rourke was right. The government's in it now. For a moment, none of them spoke. Just the storm. Then Gabe slung his rifle and said, Doesn't matter who's waiting. We finish this. We get that drive to Portland, no matter what. Lena nodded, fierce now. Then let's make it count. Eli checked his weapon, gave a crooked smile. You two ever feel like the mountain's watching? Gabe looked up at the dark ridge above them, wind screaming through the pines like a living thing. It's not watching, he said. It's waiting. They pushed into the storm, 3 black figures swallowed by white. Behind them, the gunfire had stopped. But somewhere far off, a drone's low hum began again, circling like a vulture that had finally found the scent. They reached the tower just before dusk. A tall metal skeleton rose from the snow, black against a sky the color of cold steel. It had once been a ranger lookout, square cabin on top, ladder running crooked along its spine, wind moaning through the girders like an organ. Eli pointed. That's it. Radio link should still be wired. If it isn't, we'll make it work, Gabe said. They moved fast across the clearing, every sound muffled by snow. No footprints, no sign of life, until Gabe caught a glint in the corner of his eye. Metal. Fresh tire tracks. Trucks were here, he said. Not long ago. Lena's breath clouded in the air. Then someone's waiting. Eli crouched near the base of the tower, brushing snow from a steel hatch. We can climb from inside. Safer. They slipped into the tower's lower room, half machinery, half memory. Rusted fuel drums, tangled cables, a broken coffee mug on the floor. The air was still warm, faintly electric. Someone had been here recently. "Stay sharp," Gabe said, scanning corners. They climbed. Metal rungs rattled under their boots. The wind grew louder as they rose. A steady howl like the mountain itself was warning them to turn back. At the top, the trapdoor creaked open into a small square cabin surrounded by glass. Old radios lined the wall, dusted with frost. And in the middle of the room, sitting on a folding chair with a pistol across his knee, was a man Gabe hadn't seen in over a decade. Rourke. He looked older, heavier in the shoulders, eyes sunken, hair gone steel gray, but the smirk was the same. "Evening, Gabe," he said. "Long way from Texas, huh?" Lena froze. You're the one who—" Rourke stood, gun still loose in his hand. "Sent you here?" "Yeah. Safer than waiting for Cross to pick you off in a diner parking lot." Eli stepped forward, rifle raised. "You didn't say anything about an armed welcome?" Rourke gave a small, tired laugh. "Old habits. You point enough guns at people, it becomes a handshake." Gabe's eyes narrowed. "Cut the nostalgia. You working with Cross or against him?" "That's complicated," Rourke said. "Try me." He sighed, lowering the gun just slightly. "Cross and I built the same machine once. Defense contracting, data mining, supply chains nobody was supposed to see. Then he took it private, started selling black market intel to anyone with a checkbook. I tried to shut it down." "You failed," Gabe said. "Yeah," Rourke admitted. "And then I got smart. I started feeding him poison, little pieces of disinformation, files that pointed back to his investors, the ones sitting in Washington pretending they don't know his name. The drive she's carrying." He nodded toward Lena. "Isn't just proof. It's a key. It opens accounts, fund transfers, offshore links. Enough to burn them all." Lena's hands tightened around the strap. "Then why send us here?" Rourke looked out the window at the darkening snow. "Because I needed a distraction. Cross's men are watching every highway between here and Portland. But if I light a signal from this tower, they'll come here first. Gives you a chance to slip past." Eli frowned. "And you?" Rourke smiled thinly. "I'll keep them busy." Gabe stepped closer. "You're setting yourself up to die." Rourke's gaze hardened. "We all ran out of clean exits a long time ago, brother." For a moment, no one spoke. Then the old soldier inside Gabe took over. That cold, practical voice that understood the cost of staying alive. "If you're serious, you'll need time. We can buy it for you." "No," Rourke said sharply. "You get her to Oregon. The minute that drive hits daylight, Cross loses his leash. Everything else is noise." Lena looked between them, trembling. "I can't just leave you both." "You can and you will," Gabe said. "You're the only one who can finish this." She shook her head. "What if they catch me?" "Then you make them choke on it," he said. "Every file, every name. You make them pay for running you down." Her eyes shone wet in the dying light. "Why are you doing this for me?" He gave a half smile. "Because I'm tired of driving past wrecks and pretending they're not mine." Outside, an engine roared. Distant, growing. Rourke moved to the console, flipping switches. The tower came alive, static, then the high-pitched whine of radio frequency warming up. "Signal's live," he said. "They'll be here in 10 minutes. Eli cursed softly. "What's our route out?" Rourke handed him a folded map. Fire trail west side. Follows the ridge down to the valley. There's an old service truck stashed there. Still runs. After that, Highway 90. Don't stop till you see water. He looked at Gabe one last time. Guess this is the part where you tell me I'm crazy. Gabe grinned without humor. I was going to tell you to make it count. Rourke laughed, the sound of a man who knew how the story ended and made peace with it anyway. Always did. The first searchlight cut through the snow outside, bright and merciless. Then another. Rourke raised the pistol, cocked it. Go! Eli grabbed Lena's arm. Gabe hesitated a heartbeat longer. Rourke, he said. Yeah? See you on the other side. Rourke's smile was thin and real. Not if I see you first. Gabe turned and followed the others down the ladder. Behind them, the towers shuddered as engines closed in. They reached the tree line just as the first shots rang out. Short bursts, answering fire, then the long, low roar of something exploding. The night lit up orange, snow flashing like sparks. Lena stumbled, sobbing. Gabe caught her, steady. Keep moving, he said. He made his choice. They ran through the forest, breath raw, snow burning their faces. Behind them, the tower burned like a second sun. By the time they reached the ridge, the noise had faded. Only the wind remained, carrying the faint echo of a man who had once believed truth could be handled like a weapon. Eli stopped, panting. We're clear. Lena wiped her face. He's gone. Gabe looked west, where the valley stretched dark and endless. No, he said softly. He's finally free. For the first time in days, he let himself breathe. The wind howled through the pines like applause. The highway west of the mountains looked like a scar, healing slow. Sunlight poured over the horizon in long gold lines, glinting on the snowmelt and the broken asphalt. The world was quieter now. No engines, no gunfire. Just the hum of wind through pine and the sound of tires rolling steady toward Oregon. 3 days had passed since the tower. They'd driven through back roads and ghost towns, crossed rivers half frozen, slept in the truck with the engine off to stay invisible. No radio chatter, no tail, just distance, and the weight of everything they'd left behind. Eli sat in the passenger seat, hat pulled low, snoring softly. Lena was curled against the window, her breath fogging the glass, one hand still clutching the duffel. Gabe kept his eyes on the road. The freightliner hummed beneath him, faithful and tired. He felt the bruises in his ribs, the ache in his shoulder, but also something else. Something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. When they finally saw the city skyline rising from the morning haze, Lena stirred. Is that Portland? Gabe said. You made it. She blinked at the gray sprawl ahead, bridges arching over the river, glass towers catching weak sunlight, streets still wet from last night's rain. I didn't think I'd ever see it again. You earned it, he said. They crossed into the city just after 10. Traffic was thin, morning rush long gone. Gabe followed the directions Rourke had left them. Side streets, industrial zones, down to a waterfront warehouse marked only by a faded sign, Maritime Communications. Eli woke as the truck slowed. This the place? Should be, Gabe said. Lena adjusted her coat, clutching the duffel tighter. Her name's Dana Reed. I sent her an encrypted message before we left the mountains. If she's alive, she'll be waiting. Gabe parked behind a row of abandoned trailers. If she's not? Lena smiled faintly. Then I run again. Only this time, I know what I'm running for. He nodded once. Go. She hesitated. You're not coming? Not my world anymore, he said. You walk in there alone. You tell them what happened. Don't leave out the names. Her eyes shone. You saved my life. He shook his head. No, I just gave it back to you. She stepped forward and hugged him. For a long second, neither moved. Then she let go, climbed out, and walked toward the warehouse. Eli watched her disappear through the door. You think she'll make it? She already did, Gabe said quietly. They sat there in the idling truck for a minute, the city noise distant and strange after so many days of snow and silence. Finally, Eli said, You ever going home? Gabe looked west, where the road met the ocean in a pale shimmer. Maybe. Depends what's left there. Eli chuckled. You sound like a man with unfinished business. Don't we all? Gabe said. He reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out Rourke's old dog tag, burned around the edges, half melted, found in the wreckage near the pass. He turned it over in his hand, reading the name once more. Then he whispered, You made it count, old friend. Eli started the rig, moving again, merging onto the bridge that crossed the Willamette River. The water below shone dull silver. Life hummed around them, buses, bicycles, people going somewhere. Ordinary, beautiful. Halfway across, Gabe's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. Yeah. A woman's voice, shaky but determined. Gabe, it's Dana Reed. I have the files. Lena's safe. We're going public in 24 hours. He let out a long breath. Good. You did the right thing, she said. The world's going to know who Aaron Cross really was. Make sure it sticks, he said. Then he hung up, turned off the phone, and looked out the window. Snow was falling again, soft and slow, melting before it touched the pavement. The city lights flickered against it, tiny sparks of ordinary life refusing to go dark. Eli glanced over. Where to, partner? Gabe smiled, the first real one in a long time. South. Warm air, cheap coffee, no questions. The freight liner rumbled, merging with the flow of cars, just another ghost fading into the heartbeat of America. Behind them, the sky over Portland began to clear, and somewhere in a newsroom full of humming machines, a truth too heavy to hide finally found its voice. And if the world noticed one quiet truck rolling west toward the sunset, no one said a word. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps the stories alive and inspires the next ones.